Well, welcome back, everybody. It's time for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. The one show, the only show that helps you monitor your life on a day-to-day basis and find your way to health and happiness. Like the man who's always monitoring his health, Dr. Trinh. Welcome, sir.
Hey, good morning on another episode. And I talk about monitoring our health.
Yeah.
I am bringing on a good friend and colleague, Huang Yu, right?
Yes.
Yeah, my Vietnamese is so the accent isn't necessarily perfect, but he is a specialist at monitoring patients remotely with his organization.
He was struggling, though, getting his remote connection working here, so I'm a little doubtful. I'm not sure what...
I have too many devices.
Isn't that the truth? Welcome, sir. Welcome. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Dr. Trinh and you, Paul, for inviting me on this very exciting topic, remote patient monitoring. Yes, I'm Huang Yu, founder and CEO of NewsLogic Telehealth, based in Irvine here in Orange County. I would like to invite my co-founder, Dr. Vu Thiriet, but this was an invitation on short notice, so I will try to talk on his behalf as well.
Yes.
Okay. So we founded our company about 8 years ago, and the name is NewsLogic. In case anybody wonders what news stand for, nowadays everything is smart cars, smartphones, smart home, smart everything. So we try to be different. So I named my company NewsLogic. News in the English dictionary stands for intelligent or smart.
And how do you spell that? How do you spell that? If anybody wants to look that
News,
up.
N-O-U-S.
N-O-U-S.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it's not a popular name. Somebody, quite a few people criticized me for giving such naming such an odd name, but I like to think different.
There you go. Well, telemedicine is different itself here. So tell us about telemedicine. Dr. Trinh is always talking about this as the coming wave, and many of us go, I don't know, I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's not new. This term telehealth or telemedicine started over more than 2 decades ago, but it takes time for it to come into shape and being adopted. I started, like I said, we founded this 8 years ago, but been with Broadcom, and the slogan for Broadcom is connecting everything. As far as like 3 decades ago, we already named it Connecting Everything. And nowadays, the new name is IOMT, Internet of Things. And the sub-branch is IOMT, which is Internet of Medical Things.
Yeah.
Okay. We're connecting everything to allow remote patient to remote monitoring, whether in the hospitals or in the home. Okay. And I believe that thanks to the COVID-19, quite a few new services have emerged.
Boy, that's the truth.
For example,
suddenly I can't see my doctor. Suddenly I don't want to go see my doctor. Yeah.
Right. Not only that, but the new acronym like WFH, work from home, or students take classes via online courses. Everything is via the cloud for social distancing reasons. Similarly, elderly don't want to come to the doctor's office, trying to get diagnosed, but that come out infected with COVID-19. So I believe that even though it takes a long time for telemedicine to become popular, but thanks to this COVID-19, it has accelerated the needs for these services. Okay, I'd like to take a step back. Actually, even though we started in 2013, but back when the SARS, if any of you remember the SARS, which stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, back in 2004 or 2005. It struck China, Hong Kong, and quite a few Asian companies. At that time, I work for Broadcom, and for the first time, there are chips that are available to stream what we call triple play, both video, audio, and data at the same time.
Wow.
So I saw that technology, it could be applied to telemedicine because doctors need to see and hear the patients, and also at the same time transfer their health parameters like blood pressure, glucose, and pulse ox. Okay, so I wrote a letter to my friends at Intel and Texas Instrument, asking for their support, opening up their API, so to speak, so that we can use their solution for that, for SARS. But it takes a long time. People at that time, it's too early, so it didn't take off. Right. Okay, so back to this RPM. Even before COVID-19, in starting 2020, Medicare, which is CMS, came out in 2019 with 4 reimbursement codes, CPT codes, to reimburse doctor offices that use devices like ours, which I elaborate later, at patients' home to collect data in an effort to cut down on hospitalization costs via preventive medicine. Because if you monitor all those health parameters in real time, okay, not that you no longer have to jot down all the blood pressure readings, and then in 3 or 4 months when you see the doctors, you share with them such data. By that time, it's outdated, and a stroke or some heart attack might already have happened. So 2019, CMS came out with 4 reimbursement codes for doctor offices that use these services. Okay, and we started in 2019, and then in 2020, the COVID-19 struck. And we saw a rise in adoption and just like I mentioned earlier, the Zoom video call for online classes and work from home. And interestingly enough, WFH stands for work from home, but we use that same acronym, and we trademark it to stand for wellness from home, which is the trademark for our home health RPM remote patient monitoring platform. Okay, wow. So that's in a nutshell, that's what RPM is all about. Okay.
So what are some of the devices that you have right now in your company? Is it a blood pressure or a blood sugar? What do you?
Yeah, what can you monitor remotely at this point in time here?
Yes, our solution is really very comprehensive. It's a platform consisting of monitoring the following health devices, health parameters: blood pressure, glucose, pulse ox, which is oxygen saturation, weight, temperature. Those are the 5 main devices. But the interesting or unique thing about our solution is that if a patient uploads his data in real time, a high blood pressure, a high glucose reading, the doctor sees that, yes, it's informative, but he cannot pinpoint the actual cause, root cause of the problems. So in addition to monitoring all these health parameters, we also monitor what I call intake and input and output from the patients. Okay, input, for example, like medication adherence tracking, whether they take their medication or not, or it's overdose or underdose. So thanks to such additional info, we can correlate and can help the doctor more accurately diagnose the root cause of those health issues. Okay, so that's that, and that's to monitor on the input. And I mentioned on the output, you can monitor other activities such as we have bed sensors, toilet sensors, and so on and so forth, that monitors their daily activities. And from all the data we collected, we can use software data analytics and simple form of AI to with insightful recommendation on basically this is preventive medicine to allow and it's a 3-way win. First, Medicare, after years of research, found out that through preventive methods, they can cut down on hospitalization costs. Okay, that's Medicare's win. Patients win because now their health is being monitored, in real time. Okay, and doctors win because they can provide better services to their patients, as well as receive very generous reimbursements from Medicare. And on this note, I'd like to make a clear distinction between RPM, remote patient monitoring, versus telehealth.
Okay.
Telehealth and telemedicine prior to COVID-19, I believe, are a generic term. But during COVID-19, most healthcare workers use the term telehealth very loosely. They use that to...
Anytime you're not in front of a doctor, I think that's telehealth, as something
Right.
other than going to visit a doctor's office.
Right. Video and audio via FaceTime or Zoom calls.
Right.
That's telehealth. But RPM is very different. It's not just video and audio. It's behind the scene collecting the data from the patients using those health devices that I mentioned earlier. That's why it came back to triple play that I mentioned earlier: video, audio, and data. Currently, our platform supports only RPM, but we are coming out very soon with a great version in which we added a microphone and a camera to support triple play.
So can I give you one example of how I think it would work wonderfully? And then I'm going to ask Dr. Trinh for his feeling, because I know he's a big proponent of this whole movement. Here's where I think it would instantly help. My late aunt, who lived alone, who had no children, it fell to me, because as her closest living relative, to take care of her. And how could I take care of her? She was independent. She didn't want to move in with me. She lived alone her whole life. And as she got older, it was a concern, because she'd fall. She'd forget to take her medicine. She had things like high blood pressure and other sorts of things that needed to be monitored regularly. And I'd say, did you take your pill? Did you go to your doctor? She's 2 hours away from me. She's out in Palm Springs. So had there been, she died several years ago, but had there been this around, I would have felt safe knowing that somebody was checking her vital signs, somebody was checking her medications, her intake, some of these basic things, and somebody was talking to her every day. I tried to talk to her. I talked to her every week, but I hate to say it, not every day. And so there were days that nobody talked to her, and she could have fallen. She could have, bad things could have happened. I always worried about it. Meals on Wheels was our only other safety net, who arrived every day and made sure she was alive and gave her a meal. It would seem like whatever this is, remote patient monitoring would be the answer for a senior citizen population getting older and older and more isolated.
I'm glad you mentioned those points. Actually, yes, another slogan of our team is, we are a 4Ws company. Who is doing what, where, and when.
Yeah.
We monitor 4 aspects in their daily activities. And via very smart software and data analytics, we can either detect events, emergency events like fall detection, like you mentioned earlier, in real time, or over a long period of time, we monitor the trend of their health for preventive medicine.
How do you currently monitor medication compliance, whether they're taking their meds or not?
Yes, we have 2 solutions for that. First, we have a smart pill bottle for people who takes only 1 or 2 medication a day. So we have a chip that is attached to under the cap of the pill, smart bottle. Every time they open it or they close it, such Bluetooth event, it sends out a beacon signal for our smart hub to pick up and notify and log that event. Okay, and for elderly that use more medication a day, we have a smart pill box, like a 7-day pill box, and we have NFC tag chip attached to each of the bins, so we know not only which day but which bin, like morning, noon, afternoon, and bedtime medication. And if they open the wrong bin at the wrong time, we notify them and their caregivers. Yes.
Wow.
So let me ask Dr. Trinh the question that's on my mind here right away. Sounds wonderful, particularly for old, isolated people who don't
Mhm.
want to move into a home. They can't afford to move. My aunt couldn't afford to move into assisted living. She didn't have enough money, nor did she want to move into assisted living. Why are you going to force me to do that? I want to be independent and live alone. It's
Right.
cheaper for society. It's better for her.
Right.
All these good benefits. But it was hard the older and older she got. So, Dr. Trinh, what do you think about not just the public acceptance of this, but the doctors? If she had had such a device, would her doctor have cared? Would he have checked the data, or would he have just waited till the next appointment?
No, we this technology helps us on a daily basis, because what it does is that it's taking the doctor's place in monitoring the patient's, significant vital signs. I would want to know if my patient was diabetic and their blood sugars were out of whack on a daily basis. I would want to know now than wait in 3 months when they come back to the office with their little notebook with all their blood sugars on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking back and I was like, holy moly, your blood sugar was out of whack 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had known then.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It makes no sense. I'd rather know now. And so this technology is very ideal.
But my question is this, and I'm not trying to be too hard on doctors, but we get hard on doctors on this show sometimes.
Yeah.
In a world where doctors have very little time, everything is down to the minute, and I don't spend much time in between patients because I don't get reimbursed for it either. So
Yes.
it's a question of money and time. Here now we've got the data. Would anybody look and use the data, or is it a question of time and money that's going to prevent them?
Oh, thank you for raising all those very, very relevant points. And CMS, Medicare realized that, all the points that you just mentioned. And this is another key distinction between telehealth, as most doctors call it. That's for video calls, okay? Versus RPM. Medicare, when it came out with these 4 CPT reimbursement codes, the neat thing about this, not only it's very generous reimbursement, but it does not involve the doctors. They can even outsource this service, this RPM service, to MA, medical assistants, not even nurse,
right?
Okay, to take care of this. And via our very smart software, we automate most of the steps. Only patients that really have their blood pressure or glucose level that are way out of range, then will be notified to the MAs, and then the NAs can elevate that to their doctors. So typically, the doctors would not don't have to be involved with the day-to-day behind the scene operation of
but you're saying that somebody on their staff, their medical assistant, is getting this data, is looking at it. They get charged at a lower rate. They have more time to do this. Medicare will pay them will Medicare pay them to review this information and give them a reimbursement?
Yes, there are 4 CPT codes that I'll go over in a bit. Okay. Yes, and
then if it's really bad, they call up Dr. Trinh. They say, "Hey, you better look at this. This looks bad."
Red flags only. Only the red flags will pop up to the doctor, right? If everything is within a good range with the data, then the doctor doesn't really need to know. They only need to know something's out of range.
That's what I meant earlier by smart data analytics and simple AI. Okay, AI, if you think about it, that's how you detect trends and you automate the processes. So
will they ever get more sophisticated? Will they measure your oxygen level? Like they put a little thing on your finger now to see if your oxygen level is a certain level. Will they measure more sophisticated? I'm trying to think of other things that my aunt had to monitor that were more invasive. She had to get blood drawn to do certain things. Obviously, you can't do that, or maybe you can. I don't know. Are we going to know more than just their heart rate and how often they took a pill?
Very interesting. Another
recording stopped.
I just heard the recording stopped.
Yeah, we're still going. That was just Zoom. I don't know. Somebody was.
We're still recording. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, another good point that you just raised. Currently, we support SPOT, which is pulse ox, but more sophisticated monitoring of patient's health. Yes, currently there's a patient-centric care model moving from point of care, which is where the healthcare workers are in the doctor's office or hospitals, toward PON. I call that PON, point of needs. That's where the patients live. And more technologies and special sensors will allow us to monitor more sophisticated health parameters, like you mentioned. And actually, I'm working on some of those that, you know.
Is the devices directly Bluetooth to a cell phone, or does it go directly to the data hub where they don't need to have a cell phone?
Does it have a router and you hook up to the internet that way, or does it hook up through your cell phone?
Yes. In 2019, when we first came out with this RPM service, you know, to be quick to market, we did use a cell phone. Mm-hmm. Okay, but very quickly we found out that's like opening a big can of worms. First of all, elderly people not all of them own smartphones. And secondly, even if they do, they are not comfortable with
my aunt did not, and every time I tried to buy her one, would not use it. It just she just wanted to pick up the phone and call somebody. She didn't understand all the apps and everything here.
And also, it's like you mentioned, it's too much to ask of them to open the app and navigate to the right UI page to take a measurement. Okay, so we quickly replaced that smartphone solution with our own smart hub. A smart hub basically is a dedicated piece of hardware that sits there, and it has Bluetooth is one of the wireless in it to connect to neighboring devices like those 6 health devices I mentioned earlier, as well as our smart pill bottle and toilet and bed sensors. Okay,
there's a good one. Toilet and bed sensors too. Yeah, are they?
Yes.
I sometimes wondered if my aunt ever got out of bed.
Right. And we have notification if she has not returned to bed after 10 minutes of it being out of bed also. Okay, so that's Bluetooth is embedded in the Smart Hub. 2 other wireless technologies in the Smart Hub are the following. First of all is Wi-Fi to allow all these data and services to be connected to our cloud server on the internet. But also we found out that tech support for Wi-Fi to guide the elderly patients to connect to their Wi-Fi home Wi-Fi network and password costs us too much time and resources. So last year we partnered up with Verizon Wireless and integrate the SIM card to allow this smart hub to act just like a phone. You can just plug and play, power it on, and it just connects to the internet. Wow. And you know,
I think that is so smart. Make the device, because my aunt didn't have internet service. She didn't like a smartphone, but she had a cell phone, and I had to get her the dumbed down basic cell phone because she wanted to carry it around with her, and so that worked. And the idea of making it basically just a big simple cell phone sounds like a lot of sense to me here.
Exactly. Yes.
What is so the patient does not need to physically upload anything themselves, right? It's just anytime they're checking their sugar or their pressure, that data is automatically uploaded
via the smart hub. Yes, it works behind the scene via the smart hub. Yes.
And what does it cost, and who pays for it?
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the reimbursement codes from Medicare. There are 4 codes, and these 4 codes are different from the telehealth, the virtual visit via video and audio that we mentioned earlier. The telehealth virtual reimbursement code is separate from these 4 RPM, remote patient monitoring codes. First is for the initial hardware setup. Okay, there's 1 code for that, and then the second code is CMS requires you to have data around 16 days of data per month. Okay, data, whether it's blood pressure or glucose or pulse ox. Okay. And two other codes are the nurse or the MAs, the medical assistant, have to spend per patient 20 minutes per month. Looking at the data on our website, after it has streamed to our website on the dashboard, or talking to doctors to see the resolution for each of the patient, or actually making a phone call. Doesn't have to be a video call, an audio phone call with the patient. As long as all those activities sum up to a total of 20 minutes per month per patient, that you are qualified for that third CPT reimbursement code from Medicare. And the fourth code is exactly the same as the 20 minute that I just mentioned. Okay, but for some patients, they need an additional 20 minutes. So Medicare allows for that additional 20 minutes.
But that's reimbursing the doctor's office. Who reimburses the patient, or how does the patient pay for this?
It's pretty much zero cost to the patient.
Wow.
Patient. And the doctors get the reimbursement averaging around for Orange County, because it can be different from state to state and city, mostly state to state and counties to counties, around $175 to $180 a month per patient.
So one last question, and I'll let Dr. Trinh jump in. So I just want to clarify. So if my aunt if she was still alive and we wanted to get this for her, she would contact you guys and contract through you to have this device and all these things set up in her house, and then who would pay for it? She'd pay you monthly and get reimbursed, or you would get reimbursed directly from Medicare?
No, we work with doctors' offices so that they use our hardware and data plan each month, and they will enlist or they sign up RPM patients, in their current.
And so her doctor would give this to her, sign her up, and then the doctor would get reimbursed the cost of the setup and the equipment and the service from Medicare on her behalf, or would she have to come out of pocket and write you a check every month here?
No, they don't write her a check. It's free to the patient. Yes, and the doctors don't pay the patients.
No, I don't mean it, but I'm just saying the doctor. So somehow you're an enterprise. I get it. You're making money off this. That's good.
Right.
So, but you're getting paid from Medicare.
From the doctors.
You're getting paid from the doctors.
Yes, the doctors will bill Medicare, but our software automates all the billing process to allow the doctor to bill.
So the doctor pays you, and then he gets reimbursed from Medicare.
Right.
Okay. Right. Interesting. So a question about simplicity and where we're heading to make remote patient monitoring much more simple for patients. Because right now, a blood pressure device is a separate device that patients need to check to get their blood pressure and their heart rate. The pulse ox is another device that they have to put on their finger to get their oxygen level. And then if you're diabetic, you have another device, which is, the glucometer, where you stick your little finger on here. So you're looking at, if you're diabetic and you have, lung issues and you have high blood pressure, you got to use 3 or 4 devices on a regular basis to monitor that data. Is there a way in the future where you can check everything from wearing a watch without using several devices?
The Apple Watch, the promise of having the smart watch that has all these functions built into it, or something like a watch, something
simple, so that somebody who's in their 70s and 80s don't have to try to figure out all the different devices.
They don't have to strap it all on and plug it in and strap it onto their body.
Simple way to make it for somebody who's in their 70s and 80s. I'm not sure if the technology is there yet.
Right. There are integration projects like that, but they are still in the prototyping or in R&D labs. The cost and the usability and reliability and FDA process will take quite a few number of years. Yes. Mhm.
But do you think we'll get there where we'll literally have something hanging around our neck or on our body or strapped around our wrist? We'll have one thing that is constantly checking all these things for me without me having to strap it on, hook it up, plug it in.
Definitely, but to a certain extent. For example, I think the weight, you cannot. There are wearables that come out, that are coming out to support an array of different health parameters. But you have to compromise or trade off between accuracy and ease of use.
Right.
Yes. I know you can't weigh yourself with a watch.
But you could have the weight as I step on. I might have to do that. I might have to step on a scale, but that scale can easily be hooked up to the internet and to your hub.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are wrist-based blood pressure monitoring, but we know very well that there's trade-off there. It's not as
Can I ask you another bomb thrower, ugly question here that you probably don't talk about too often? What if you're wrong? What if the device fails? What if it gives an inaccurate reading? Does my aunt come back and sue you and say, oh, you didn't tell me and I had a stroke. You didn't tell me this. So you gave me inaccurate data. Is there disclaimers attached to this? Is there, how do you handle failure?
First of all, these are FDA certified devices. Okay. So yes, and we have disclaimer. In case of emergency or something like that, the doctors are not, this program is not for 24/7 monitoring. It is, but if you feel you need, and in case of emergency, you do have to call 911, okay? This is for preventive medicine and measuring and monitoring over a period of time to detect trends, okay?
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a team that does the data monitoring and alerts the doctor, or does all that data go to the doctor's team? Well, I know the doctor has access to data.
I think it's different. It sounds like they just supply the data, gets put into some online database, and then it's up to the doctor to go find it, or maybe it triggers them if it hits certain levels. I don't know. No,
like I said, we know that because my co-founder is an MD himself. Yeah. They're overloaded with their daily routines already. Okay, this has to be highly automated with very smart software. Yes, each doctor that signed up with us, RPM program with us, has their own login account to our dashboard and our server. But behind the scenes, there are a lot of things that work around the clock to weed out things that are not urgent or in emergency. Okay, and to only notify the MAs, not the doctor, when things are in the abnormal range. Okay.
I see.
So I'd like to ask your audience, Dr. Trinh, the people who are tuned in today or later, what do you think of this? Are you open to telemedicine at all? Are you open to remote patient monitoring at all? Or is the patient... I would think some of us would welcome it and some of us would fear it, like any technology. And I'm just wondering where we're at this moment, at least your audience as a sample. Would you be interested in remote patient monitoring today for you or someone you know? Answer yes or no, or let's get some replies from your audience here. 'Cause I'm not sure.
I know. I mean, a few years ago, we haven't really heard about remote patient monitoring. It's only been popular in the last number of years. And those CPT codes came out when? In 2019?
In 2019, January 2019.
The
very
Medicare
recent.
codes, yeah.
And then we had the pandemic, so nobody was doing anything. So really, this year is.
I'll tell you my own personal excitement and my own personal fears. Maybe I'm typical, maybe I'm unusual. Let's start with the excitement. I like the idea of monitoring my health on a regular basis. And I don't mind what many would, the intrusiveness of it. I'm sharing data. I want to share data. I want the doctor to look at data all day long about me. I'm not worried about the government spying on me or anything. Some might be Big Brother watching my blood pressure or something. No, I love the idea of tracking that and doing it easily, and hoping that the doctor would do it a lot. My fear is that more and more the doctor would that I'd see the doctor less. That eventually all I am is just hooked up to a monitor, and somebody calls me up, some nurse practitioner, and says, "Oh, you're sick. You need this. Take this." I already feel getting distant away from my doctor more and more and more. This would just seem to be one more way to not see him or her. What do you think of that?
I think with telemedicine, you may be able to see your doctor more.
That's what you
Because
said.
it's just on a
I agree. Yes.
with than before, where you're the whole process of going to the doctor's office is already for many patients an experience that's very cumbersome, especially if you're in your 70s, 80s, or 90s.
Yes.
Right. You have to call, there's waiting time, you're waiting on the phone, you're scheduling an appointment. You have to find transportation.
Transportation's the key. I had to take days off to go out to the desert to drive my aunt there. She couldn't get to the doctor anymore.
Yeah, you got to do transportation. If you're working, you have to take time off work. If you have a kid, you got to find babysitting. You got to bring your child along, and then you get to the doctor's office. There's more forms to fill out. There's more waiting in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Right. And you're waiting for the waiting room. Everyone around you is coughing and
Yeah,
sick.
right.
You're afraid you'll catch something. And then they take you to the doctor's, exam room, and then you got to wait some more in the exam room. The only valuable time with that doctor is the 7-8 minutes that you get face to face with that doctor.
Right.
In this long experience of getting to the doctor's office and all the waiting time, that 7 to 8 minutes with the doctor is the only time that the patient, considers valuable. When you do telemedicine, you cut out all that in the past, right? You cut out that whole trail of preparation and wait time, and you're just doing telemedicine. You are now just in front of the doctor.
So do you get more time than the 7 minutes then to compensate for, it doesn't take me 2 hours of pre-planning and waiting and driving to get that 7 minutes. Not only can I get it faster, but maybe do I get more time in front of the doctor?
Yeah, that's the whole idea, is to expand that time that's valuable to you. That doctor face-to-face time through telemedicine, or to expand that value time and cut down on all the waste. Right, cut down on all the waiting and the waste. And so
it's not just a trick to pawn me off on somebody lesser. More and more I feel like I only talk to the nurse practitioner. The doctor is too important. I don't get to talk to the doctor much anymore. I talk to their physician's assistant and their nurse practitioners and all these other acronyms I've had to learn. And I say, damn it, they didn't go to medical school. Why am I only seeing them?
Yes, part of that is shortage of physicians. We have a big physician shortage, especially in primary care, and so there's not enough docs to replace the ones that are retiring. But I must say that nurse practitioners do a very good job. I work with many nurse practitioners. It's really the comfort level, the complexity of your condition, your health conditions, and how comfortable you are in building trust, whether it's with a doctor or a nurse practitioner or PA, with that.
Well, I don't know if we had anybody comment yet, but I'd really be curious to see how people react to this. Is it are we moving in the right direction, or are we moving further and further away from the doctor? And of course, I recognize there are some that view any sort of intrusion as Big Brother, a fear that the data is going to be hacked and stolen and misused, and government's monitoring me. Big Brother's now watching me. I'm going to rip all this stuff up. Nobody's going to know what I'm doing. I don't want to know my kids to know what I'm doing. I don't want to know everybody. I'm too independent. And I don't know. That seems to be old school, but I'm sure there's some of that too.
Right.
Yep. Just have to compromise. Now it's the age of data.
Yeah.
Yes,
Big
data is everything. Actually, there's a saying, data is the new oil, as valuable as oil.
It really is.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
We do shows all the time on this topic, and I'll give you some interesting examples. We had a guy, you talk about fintech, financial technology, and many people are arguing that the bank's most important commodity isn't your cash in their vault that they can lend out. It's the data that they collect because of that relationship. They have your credit card data if they gave you the credit card. They have all your transaction data. And do they then, that data is probably more valuable as a commodity than the actual cash in the bank. Now, we hate the idea that they're going to sell our data and tell people what we're doing, but maybe we wouldn't hate it if the data was for good. So if the Bank of America had a relationship with Starbucks, for example, and as I'm driving down the street, my phone tells me, hey, there's a Starbucks nearby, and the B of A app comes on and says, well, we'll give you $5 off because you're a B of A customer. Why don't you stop right now? Go ahead, have a coffee. Because you're a valued B of A customer. We built a relationship, and we now know where all the Starbucks are, and we can instantly give you a code for $5 off. You might go, hey, that's pretty cool. That's why I'm with this bank, because they have a community of relationships and connections. But in return, they're telling Starbucks, hey, Paul's driving by one of your stores. You better get out there and wave. You know, it's a complex world. We love what technology can do, but we hate that it knows all about us.
Yeah.
Facebook, Google, everything. We love all the free services, but we hate the fact they now know what we do.
So, and Huang, how long did you recently start our RPM over the last few years? When did you officially go live with it?
2019.
Wow.
Yes,
and of course, 2020, nothing happened, right? Because of COVID.
we had some traction then, but yes, COVID-19, like I mentioned, just like Zoom video call, work from home, and all that. These are new normal services.
Normal. This is the new. So, Dr. Trinh, you got a question there from Alex. Ask the question. Maybe you can look at it here.
What is Alex? I can't see his.
He says yes, telemedicine is the future. So he answered positively to my challenge, but he wonders what happens on the weekend. All of a sudden, the telemedicine's telling the remote patient monitor saying, danger, Will Robinson, look out, there's a problem ahead, and nobody's watching because it's the weekend. The doctor's office is closed. Is there a protocol? Is there a backup? Can you contact the doctor on his cell phone? Oh my goodness, I'm out playing golf. I'm leisurely doing something. And all of a sudden, Paul Roberts, an alert from your company says, you better pay attention. Your patient's in trouble here. You can't wait till Monday.
Ooh, do you have a solution for that? That's more of a doctor's issue, huh?
That's a very good point. Like I mentioned earlier, yes, we do have disclaimer and also a consent form that even though this program monitors you 24/7, but in case you feel you need an emergency, you still have to call 911.
But I guess, again, now we're back to the doctor issue. He wants the data. He wants his nurse practitioner to look at it, but all of a sudden, she's not around. It seems like you could build in a fail-safe with the doctor's buy-in, opt-in, that, all right, tell me if the nurse practitioner's not around, send it to my cell phone if it's really urgent. Or does the doctor turn that off and say, oh, I can't do this all day long and get alerts from my patients. I got a life.
Exactly, yes.
It's really no different now. I mean, on the weekend, if the patient checks their blood pressure and it's high, I mean, and the doctor's office is closed, you go to urgent care or ER or whatever it is, right, that you normally do.
Would doctors ever want to get that data? Again, it's time and money. Do I get paid for it? Do I have the time to do it? We all hope our doctor would be there 24/7 for us, but they're not. And more and more.
These are all valid points.
Yeah.
Maybe, yes. Maybe if such conditions arise, then they can do telehealth, the video call on the spot.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm at the golf course. Paul, what's going on, buddy? I'm playing golf here. Is it that bad? Well, if it's that serious, go to urgent care. Because I'll give you another one that adds to it. My wife had this recently. It wasn't life and death, but she tore her toenail off. Okay, she tripped, and now it's bleeding, and I can't stop it. And it's Saturday night, And so she tripped somehow and did this, and it's 8 o'clock at night. And so I said, well, let's go to the urgent care. There's no urgent cares open anymore on the weekends. I could go to the hospital and pay $1 million because I'm out of the network and out of compliance or something here. And so we had to weigh, was it worth going to the emergency room and waiting 4 hours on a Saturday night to look at her toenail? Or your answer is go to urgent care. All the urgent cares are cutting back because of cost. And I was shocked to see that, at least in South Orange County here, there was not one urgent care, even outside of the network, I Googled, that was open after 5 on a Saturday.
Wow.
Not one.
So it's ER time, huh?
Yeah. And so we didn't go because I knew that I'd get a $500 bill if we went to ER under our policy.
Right. So did you just fix her toenail yourself?
I did. We wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it. And I guess it finally stopped bleeding. And then finally Monday she went and saw the doctor and he's like, why didn't you go to ER? And we like, because you're all closed.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's where telemedicine could have been great. If we could have gotten the doctor and he could have looked at it and said, all right, here, do this then. You can't get to an urgent care. Yeah, all right, you don't need to go to the hospital. I guess you're right. But here, do this, put this on, do something. He could have advised, somebody could have advised, a nurse practitioner could have advised somebody. But we had nowhere to go except the overcrowded, overpriced emergency room at the major hospital.
Too bad it's a toenail, not a fingernail. Because if it was a fingernail, I would have recommended the secondhand store.
Oh, yeah, right. Second. Seriously, folks, these are the jokes. He's here all week, Dr. Trinh. Well, so again, I can see, I'll tell you one other curious story here. I don't know if anybody else has had this. So I just turned 65. I now have a Medicare Advantage plan through, who do I get through? Blue Shield. And one of the things they recommended, they bribed me. They actually bribed me to do by giving me a $25 gift card was, they said, why don't you try telemedicine once? Just call us up. We'll show you how it works. The doctor, somebody will ask you a few questions. We won't frighten you. We'll show you how easy it is. Here's our app. Hit the button at 24/7. There's somebody there who will answer this thing. Telemedicine. Try it. Just try it, Paul, and we'll give you $50. And I said, well, for $50, I'll try anything. And I thought, why am I hesitant? What a great thing. Why is this a bad thing? I got a button on my phone that I now know to call. Hey, my wife's toenail came off. What do I do?
I love it. So what is your website? Is it
newsrpm.com? NOUSRPM.com.
RPM.com.
We got to get him a new name. I'm sorry. We got to come up with a new name. Noose doesn't work here. Sorry. That's a consensus. All in favor?
I like to think different.
That's great. So when are you coming up with the 2.0 platform where you can do the telemedicine also with video chat attached to the
Yes. Good question. Yes, in roughly about by the end of the year, in 6 months, and that will be very convenient for our doctors because now under the same platform we can get reimbursement from Medicare for 2 types of reimbursement codes for virtual visit via video call and audio call versus for RPM. Well, the billing process is quite complex. We are very, I have to say, we are proud of our software working behind the scene to ready all the billings.
And I hate to say this, but I think you're admitting that one of the obstacles to getting doctors to accept this isn't whether it works, it's how I get paid for it. And if it's too hard and too difficult, I ain't going to do it, even if it's a good thing.
Exactly. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. Even though the reimbursement is very generous, but yes, they are too busy to and I believe it's too new. Oh, along that note, I'd like to share with you my vision on the huge potential of this medical technology.
Please, we'll end with this. Give us the future. Show us the happy future.
Yes. I like to compare with the following. If you remember, back in 1997, Amazon started its business just to sell books online.
Yeah.
And now it's the world's largest e-commerce, selling practically everything.
Everything.
I believe that's where RPM is. Now, just like Amazon 25 years ago, we have laid down an infrastructure, a cloud-based infrastructure to the home or to the hospital for real-time remote patient monitoring for different markets, from hospitals to home health. Mm-hmm. So this is just the start, and we believe there'll be new layered services that will introduce in the coming months. Okay.
So
especially
we're talking,
using
you heard it right here. We're talking to Jeff Bezos, number 2. We were talking to the man who someday, he won't even take our phone calls 10 years from now. He'll be, there was a time Jeff Bezos was working out of his garage when he started it, selling books online.
Yeah.
And now look where that ended up.
Yeah. So by the end of the year, if you're adding telemedicine, so when you drop off to the patient's house their blood pressure cuff, their pulse ox, do you also drop off to them like an iPad where they can talk to the doctor, or how does that work?
No smartphones or smart tablets and all that. That same smart hub that I mentioned earlier currently supports data only. Yes. Like blood pressure and all those 5 or 6 devices that I listed earlier. Right. Okay. We are adding camera and microphone and speakers to integrate into that same unit. So it will handle, like I mentioned earlier, triple play, video and audio for yes. Okay. Video and audio for the telehealth reimbursement code.
Hang on afterwards. I have an interesting connection to pass on to you. I don't want to do it on the air, but of another company we interviewed that currently provides iPads for elderly people, and they're idiot-proof iPads. I had my aunt use one, and even she could use it, and it really is designed just to do a couple things, to give you a little video chat, and it's hooked up with a Verizon chip. And it's a simple, indestructible, ruggedized iPad with big displays and only 2 or 3 apps in the whole thing. You can't download anything else on it. It's a closed system. It's an iPad, but you can only put their couple of apps on it. And it allows you to talk to your kids and to see pictures and to play some music and play like 4 or 5 apps that you could do. And they were idiot-proof. And even my aunt, who hated technology, loved this tablet at the end, and I could easily see them adding your service as one other app onto this tablet. It's based here in Orange County. They sold a ton of them, and it's a design apps for old. It's an indestructible, idiot-proof, can't break it, don't have to learn much how to use it. Basic tablet for old people that's hooked up not through the internet but through a phone technology. So she didn't have to have internet service or anything. She just had to have a cell phone service.
Great. Yeah. Please keep in touch with I love that connection. Yeah. And you're right. Yes. An iPad, similarly with our devices, the Smart Hub with an LCD screen. It helps out a lot with social isolation among the elderly as well.
Yeah,
the kids now can send their a vacation photo, then display it on our Smart Hub LCD.
Wow.
Yes.
There you go. That's what this was. I could upload a picture to their site, and then it would instantly appear on her tablet without her doing anything. She'd say, "Oh, look at that! It's right there. I didn't have to touch anything. It was like the background screen. It would pop up the picture I had uploaded to her." So it's the future. It's what Alex said here. It's the future. It's coming whether we want it or not. And the thing is, let's make it a good future. Let's make it a happy future. Let's think of all the positive things we can do with it. Because I think opens up new frontiers we haven't even thought about. After hours and remote monitoring and all that kind of stuff. Give us the website one last time, and then Dr. Trin's going to take us out.
Okay. NOUSRPM.com, NOUSRPM.com. And one additional very interesting website of ours is, we call it newnormal19.com. Again, new normal and the digit 19.com. This is a web page I recently created to list all the new features and services that we are supporting using AI as a result of COVID-19.
So I'm going to suggest Dr. Trinh bring you back on in 6 months, and we do a telemedicine call on the air live with
That's a challenge. I love that.
yeah.
You should do it. We'll bring you. Let's have you come back so you can give us an update on the
Mhm.
2.0.
And let's
And,
walk people through it. We're doing live video
Walk
things.
people
There's
through it.
probably some way we could bring this in and we could show public what is telemedicine look like. Let's go through a session live on the air here.
Appreciate that challenge.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. We'll have to invite you over to UC Irvine Bio-Innovation. It's where our office is at.
Yep.
And maybe bring your devices. We can show them off and things of that sort.
I would love to. That's where our studio is based for OC Talk Radio, the channel that does all this stuff here. And they are on the cutting edge themselves of all sorts of, I don't know about telemedicine, but medicine and medical devices. That's what the center was built, to take technology from campus and turn it into real companies here. And they've got the VCs and the accelerators and the incubators and the investment groups and all that stuff. And that's what we have our studio there to help tell that story, and also to, help bring their community information from the outside, other ideas. So yeah, maybe we can be a bridge there as well here. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Here, Dr. Trinh, take us out. What do you think of telemedicine?
Telemedicine is the future, and it looks like NewsLogic has a lead on this, and with excellent team behind us. Thank you so much, Anhuang, for coming on and telling us the story behind it.
Thank you. Yes.
All right.
Okay, there you have it. The future today, right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from the UCI Beal Applied Innovation Center with Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. Join us each and every week. We show you the future of health, one conversation at a time.